You are a jetpack rifleman, a gun-lance knight with rocket engines on their back, a blood mage. But above all, you're a Voyager, an explorer of a world reborn. Once upon a time, the Earth was destroyed by the World Tree, which burst from the ground, piercing the earth and sky with root and branch, tearing the world apart and scattering it into pieces. But this is not the end, for when the World Tree arrived, so did magic. Magic that transformed the destroyed world, and from its remains, raised up a new one. 1,000 years have passed, and life has exploded. Animals hyper-evolved into great behemoths and even dragons. The cities of the old world have become mysterious dungeons and treacherous ruins, and most perplexingly, Homo sapiens as a species has evolved and adapted in the face of the apocalypse, finding new and fantastical forms, different in so many ways, but never truly erasing their common beginnings and their shared sense of humanity. This is the world of Voyager, which is a sci-fi fantasy setting and original tabletop system I've been working on and off for the past 2 years. I recently caught a creative bug for it, so I thought, okay, might as well finish everything in a semi-release state, and here we are. In this video, I'd like to do a quick rundown of character creation as a guide for new players and to promote the game system. You are a Voyager, a person who has been charged with exploring this young and untamed world and discovering the secrets of its past. You are a member of Exodus, a massive commission leading numerous expeditions to explore this new world, Revenir. So, let's make a character who is one of these intrepid explorers. There are multiple sections when creating your Voyager, so we'll look at them one at a time. I made Voyager Tactics with the philosophy that if I wanted to take any cool anime character design I saw and play as that badass character, the rules would totally let me do it without much problems. So let's say I take this illustration. This is a fan art of Kureiji Ollie by Paco. I look at it and go, oh, I really like the idea of playing a zombie samurai. I'm getting a cool vibe from her and she seems like a fun character to play. So let's walk through character creation with this concept and inspiration in mind. Let's look at the core rulebook here, where the different parts of character creation are covered. Let's ignore origin for now, which is more about her background. Since I don't know that much about this character yet, let's lock down her race first, since we know what to do for that one. There are currently 13 playable races in the game called Sapients. Most Sapients were originally humans, but after the arrival of the World Tree, its magic caused these humans to evolve into new and unprecedented forms in order to adapt and survive alongside this rapidly changing world. You have lizard/snake people called the Raya, you have the Oslati, who are basically Slavic bird people, and of course you have the vanilla human. But even they have a unique place in the setting, because in this post-apocalypse world, you are the only people left unchanged. You are a living relic of the old world caught between two eras. Your very existence as an original human is an anomaly. But let's continue and give our zombie girl a name. Let's call her Oshi. For her sapient, this game's list of playable sapients has the Viamor, who are the designated undead race. The law is, when the World Tree destroyed Earth, there was an entire population of people who fell underground and were consumed by the Earth. But instead of dying, the entire underground became a sort of realm where time and death stopped entirely, creating the first Viamor. There are two types of Viamor: the Cadaver, who have more skeletal or zombie-like features, and the Spectre, who are more ghost or phantom-like. Obviously, Oshi here is a zombie, so we'll make her a Cadaver. As part of her Cadaver subrace feature, Oshi can spend an action to detach parts of her body. She can pop her arm off and swing a sword with it, which extends her attack range. She can also pop her entire head off and can, say, hold it high to look over a wall, throw it somewhere to take a look, or plop it in an ally's hands. Here, hold my head, to take her along to see some sights while her body stays behind to do chores. So lots of really fun roleplay potential there as a Cadaver Viamor. So we have our choice of Sapient. Now let's choose Oshi's faction. So your faction is your cultural background, where you grew up, and the allegiances you may have. There are the Shardlands, floating islands populated by monsters and dragons, where the Viking-like Shardlanders hunt them using Lost Earth technology. Skodos, which is where all the Viamor live, but I don't necessarily want Oshi to be defined by being from Skodos. I don't think she matches that vibe. So instead, I'll put her on Dust. Dust is a diverse region of swamps, jungles, and deserts, made up of a loose alliance of family clans, crime syndicates, and treasure hunters. It's a giant melting pot of different cultures full of rogues and ruffians, so I feel Oshi would fit perfectly there as a bodyguard for hire. When you pick a faction to follow during character creation, you get an additional origin or background based on that faction. So for Dust, we have the origin Dustborn. This means your Voyager gets new additional skill benefits when you roll any skill based on that region. Its geography, its culture, how to best interact with its people. Your choice of faction, not your race, is also what determines the languages you know. Additionally, by picking the Dust faction, I can choose one of 2 extra skill specialties, either to sweet talk my way out of a hairy situation or slip away to escape from them. Since I think Oshi here gives me the vibe of a talkative, expressive person, I'll choose sweet talk for her. I can use this specialty when interacting with anyone from my faction, like haggling for better prices or convincing someone to let me into a restricted area. Next is our venture, and your venture is basically your job or class. It reflects your main profession or way of life before you became a Voyager. So you could have been a mercenary or a scholar or anyone in between who chose to enlist your services to Exodus and use your skills to explore the world beyond. Currently there are 10 playable ventures in Voyager Tactics, with more that I intend to add to the game to really have a nice spread of the different characters you can make. For example, I want to create a venture in the future specifically for players who want to make a monk or martial artist, or a spellblade who uses weapons and magic, or a summoner who uses some sort of companion to fight. For now though, the venture that best suits Oshi is the Arms Master, and the Arms Master is the dedicated, flashy DPS class, the badass anime swordsman archetype. Now, each venture has its own loadout, which is related to the combat rules that I won't cover here, but basically your loadout determines what types of actions you can take during combat and how many. Each venture in Voyager Tactics has their own unique loadout and distribution of the types of actions they can take that, at a glance, informs the player about the kind of fantasy that they embody. Some have more defensive actions that they can use to tank damage or heal allies. Some have more ranged actions that they can use for firearms or long-ranged magic. Some, like the Jet Corps Trooper, have a lot of movement actions, these grey nodes over here, that they can use to fly around the map. For the Arms Master, which is the melee DPS class, they have a lot of melee hit actions, which are these red nodes over here. Combat in Voyager Tactics takes a lot of reference from tile-based tactics games like Fire Emblem, and party-based games where you utilize each party member's unique abilities to chain off other members' abilities and perform combination attacks like Persona and Genshin Impact. Obviously, as a Ruby fan, I wanted to make something that could emulate that sort of teamwork-focused combat, and a lot of the goals I had while working on this game is that you can easily run a Ruby-based campaign using this system. But yeah, without going into too much detail, the Arms Master is the skilled warrior who uses their sword or spear or whatever they wield to do cool anime shit. They can create slashing shockwaves that pass through enemies. They can deflect bullets and even magic at higher levels. They can attack so fast that they leave an after image that attacks in their place. So it works. It is everything I find cool about the fantasy of a badass sword-wielding warrior condensed into a single class. So that's what we're gonna pick for Oshi. So now we have our choice of Sapient, Faction, and Venture for Oshi. She is a katana-wielding zombie from the most lawless, decentralized region of the known world. The idea I wanted to capture from this image I'm using as her inspiration, I've hopefully replicated in the game's system. Now, and finally, we can decide on Oshi's origin. Your origin is basically your unique background as a person. This goes into the entire skill system, which I won't explain here, but basically it defines your main skill set that reflects your worldview and life experience and how you approach problems. So let's look at Oshi. I want to make her a fun, easygoing sellsword. Maybe she likes drinking, like drinking sake, trying out different types of wines. Because she's a zombie, maybe the buzz she gets from drinking reminds her of her past mortal life before she died and became a VMO. Even if her sense of taste is dulled and she can't really get drunk anymore because of her undead body, it rouses enough of her senses that doing so is almost like a calming ritual or a source of comfort that she turns to remind herself of her own humanity. So I want to make this a main aspect of her origin. Now your origin can be literally anything, meaning your skills can be pretty much anything you want. So let's say, comparing to let's say 5th edition, where you have your wisdom stat, and that wisdom stat determines your perception, and somehow also how well you do with medicine, even if your specific character that you imagined has no experience with medicine. But here, the skills are more like the actions you can take based on and reflecting your unique background and how well you can use them. So in Voyager Tactics, there's only like 5 skills you need to worry about. Dare is for doing any badass thing in general, like athletics and jumping around. Law is for using your knowledge and experience. Sense is your discernment, insight, and perception. Tool is for using tools or anything with fine control, like instruments and computer equipment. And face is for any social related skills, like intimidation, charm, and persuasion. And based on the situation, you yourself define how your character expresses that skill. So if your character is good at intimidation, but not good at persuading people, you can communicate it that way instead of being good at all of them just because you have, a high charisma score. So while you can make your origin anything, there are several examples listed here in the rulebook that detail how you can apply the skill system using your unique background. So let's look at one of the examples, Alcohol Enthusiast. So going off of this origin, this means that any skills that your Voyager uses relating to this background get certain bonuses. So like for the Lore skill, you know all the good bars and drinking spots, all the good brands of wine and their exact vintage. For the Sense skill, you can actually tell when a drink is of good quality or even if it's poisoned. Your Dare skill, you can use it when you want to challenge someone to a drinking contest, that kind of thing. I like the vibe of an alcohol drinking mercenary, so we're going to lock in this origin for Oshi. So think of your origin as your Voyager's main thing that your personality, interests, or background are centered around. When you look at this person, what is the thing you associate most with them? Are they known for being a sea captain, a fortune teller, a famous celebrity idol? Choosing your origin helps you figure out what is the core concept behind your character and enables it by giving you skill bonuses when you act in a way that complements that character's origin. And that's our character Oshi. So that's character creation in Voyager Tactics from start to finish. I went through a lot of iterations making this to find a system that I liked, because I didn't really like the idea of tying stats you can attribute to your character based on race, like wisdom or intelligence. So that's what choosing your origin is for. I didn't really like the idea that your race determines your culture, because you could be someone of mixed heritage or raised in a different culture. So that's what choosing your faction is for. And finally, I always liked playing around with the idea of a fantasy world where all the unique and wondrous fantasy races shared a common origin, and that led to the creation of the Sapients, where many of them are hyper-evolved variants of humankind that rapidly adapted and were transformed by the latent magic in the new world, changing their innate biology to survive in their unique environments. So, I hope you enjoyed and gained some insights about this game I'm making, Voyager Tactics. I know I don't cover it very often on my channel, but this is the world I've spent at least 2 years thinking about and working on, and I have a very personal attachment to it because it's a world that I can entirely call my own, and it was motivated by my love for things like Ruby and wanted to capture a lot of what I love about it while still putting my unique spin on it as a creator. If the system I explained gets you excited to want to try the tabletop out, or just to see all the ideas in the rulebook, you can head down to the description and find the latest version of the PDF of the rulebook on itch.io. It's currently in the playtest stage and it's completely free to download and try. So of course, any Donations are more than welcome if you enjoyed it and want to support more of this work. And of course, if you want to playtest it, you are more than welcome to join the Voyager server, which is also in the description. If there's more support, I'd like to make more videos about Voyager tactics, maybe talking about the gameplay mechanics, the lore, or even devlogs as I develop new ventures for players to try and show my process. Thank you for watching. If the Voyager setting appeals to you and you want to see more, feel free to like and subscribe. I'm Saito-kun, an artist, world builder, and amateur game designer, and this has been the Switchback channel, signing off.